And so it also gets into, really looking hard at the Anchorage Daily News and the Anchorage Museum partnership in terms of Julia O'Malley being the artist in residence and the partisan social media activity coming from numerous ADN.com employees on social media on the clock, and how that conflicts with their mission and their purpose and the money that they get from subscriptions and everything like that, which is one element. But going beyond that, looking at the publishing of Julia's book, which was allegedly apparently done in some sort of a partnership with the actual Anchorage Museum and University of Washington Press, and also noting how they're not only do they help publish her book, and not only are they doing the artist in residence thing, so there's two different levels of that, but publishing the book, what money from the museum or ADN, but specifically the museum, because the museum seems like they're listed as part of the publisher for the whale and the cupcake. What money from the museum, uh, how much and how? Because clearly, publishing her private for-profit book, The Whale and the Cupcake, or whatever book it was, uh, is not, you know, was there any sort of a competitive selection process with other writers? I mean, are they now publishing books? How is publishing Julia's book? Clearly, if it's just Julia and they're just doing it as like a welfare thing or a philanthropic thing to Julia to help her, that's a political angle to help Julia O'Malley in terms of the museum, partnering with University of Washington to publish her book. And I'm guessing in terms of their partnership, they basically put down quite a bit of funds to get it going. But this is the problem. So when I'm bringing my kid to the museum, or Joe Schmo is, and the people are donating to the museum, because typically museums have up to 20-30% of their funding is public money, so they're taking that money in some shape or form, and a small amount of it, and it's a misappropriation of funds, which is actually a criminal violation if they're then using that for a private to publish this woman's private book. And that doesn't align with they're not a publishing company. The Anchorage Museum is not publishing. They don't have a big program where they're intending to publish books from other people as well. For instance, like, I've written a book. Is there any way for me to publish my book through the Anchorage Museum? Probably not. You know what I mean? So it's clearly a political thing with them enabling and assisting financially Julia to publish her book, but it's a misappropriation of funds. Beyond just being a political thing, it being something we can remark on Twitter, there's actually a criminal penalty here, because the Anchorage Museum, again, the public funding, it's not aligned with the mission and the purpose of the organization, and they're taking the funds that are given to them for one mission and purpose, and they're using it for something totally different. So to make an analogy, so that I'm more clear, say like Department of Natural Resources in Alaska decided to put out, like, one of their employees who's been there a long time, or who's been in the community a long time, wanted to make a film, or they wanted to write a book, make some sort of a private thing in terms of like art, and they used the money from DNR, right, towards that private book or film that they were going to make about Alaska and their time working in Alaska and that kind of thing. Now, clearly, you can't take the money from DNR, right, on the state level and use it for DNR employees, or book or a film or something like that. They're making a film about moose, or a book about small town Alaska, where they were working for DNR. That's clearly a conflict of interest. You know what I mean? It's clearly a misappropriation of funds, and that's just one example. I could use other examples as well, but just trying to come up with something to just put a comparative analysis. And it's really the same thing with the Anchorage Daily News, taking that subscription money, right, when people subscribe to ADN, I said in my other video too, and then they're taking that money and they're using it, to support this partisan social media activity on the clock by so many of their journalists. But that's obviously something people are going to complain about. But bigger is the issue with the publishing the book, frankly, because we're certainly not, certainly those people are not trying to support Julia's for-profit private book when they subscribe to ADN. That's a total misappropriation of funds, if in any shape or form. And the reason I'm mentioning ADN, because I don't know if ADN in any shape or form helped publish her book, but they're certainly helping sell it, right, by working in this strange partnership where it hasn't really been clearly explained with the museum to have Julia be an artist in residence over there. Now, maybe the museum has other artists in residence, but has the museum and ADN, published other books? Are they making the attempt to publish other books? Or, you know what I'm trying to say? So it's really again, misappropriation of funds, which is a criminal thing. And and I don't know how much money was used to help Julia publish her book. Clearly, it's political. It's because she's been in the community so long, and she's her name. The streets are named after her family or whatever in Anchorage. But she needs to go to a publishing company like any other writer and try to get her book published that way. She can't. We can't misappropriate funds from the museum to publish her book. That's just it's unlawful and it's criminal activity, and there needs to be an investigation. This is bigger than the social media activity of Nat Hurst, and some of these Anchorage Daily News employees, the partisan social media activity. These guys are publishing or misappropriating funds for more than that. In Anchorage, they're misappropriating funds, and they don't want to answer the questions. Well, the we're going to need to take these guys to court, and we're going to need to prove, and it's pretty easy to do, that they misappropriated funds at that museum, which is a crime.